Now, a story I liked recently, everything that happened between Hangman Adam Page and the Young Bucks. They basically loved each other, and they fell out, and they kind of fell back in love with each other again. I mean, we still haven't resolved it as of me speaking, although it did give rise to the anxious Millennial Cowboy. Eventually he became the AEW World Champion. I thought that was dumb. And a huge reason for that too is because we gave it time, we allowed it to breathe, and we opened the door for nerds like me to start fantasy booking stuff. And today, so many people are like, oh man, I can't believe you've done that. But do not pretend that fantasy booking isn't like the lifeblood of all professional wrestling. You make up what you want to see happen, and when it doesn't, you go and moan about it. And I kind of feel like WWE is about to stumble onto one of these too, and that it's about to explode. Why? Here's why. So it is quite clear that with the Triple H WWE regime, there is going to be a renewed focus in telling a story and letting it build and grow over a matter of weeks, instead of introducing it on Raw and 7 days later, it absolutely vanishes. I mean, why this hasn't always been the edict, I don't know, because as much as WWE says they want to be like a television show, never actually bought into the way that a television show tells stories. I mean, you just want a reason to tune back in every single time. I mean, if I'm invested in Mary and Steve, and all of a sudden Evil Darren comes on the mix and he's trying to break them up, and then Harriet is here too sticking her oar in, you bet your ass I'm grabbing that controller, because I'm damn worried. In terms of World Wrestling Entertainment, we are also going to talk about a relationship today. It is that relationship between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Now, I know in the past, so many times they've gone, oh my gosh, they're never going to be together again, but flub all that, we are walking down a brand pristine path, and I want to get to the end of it. For starters, I believe in it. Yep, all you've got to do is load up your history machine and see everything that Kevin Steen and El Generico have done, and even if you do want to keep it specifically WWE, or just go watch old episodes of NXT. I mean, do you remember when Owens became a mega heel because he basically screwed Sami Zayn over after Sami had won the NXT World Championship? It was like somebody had got a sword and stabbed it into your heart, and then they looked into your eyes and went, ha ha ha, and laughed at you. That's right, it really affected me. And you can probably actually tell that tale for a second time now that we are on the main roster, but before we get there, we are doing everything with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline. And the reason this is so compelling is that Kevin Owens can see that his best bud is being manipulated, but Sami is kind of like the bully in school, or the bully person I should say, who was finally accepted by the cool kids. You sit in that locker room, and while you know you're not meant to be there, you don't want to go back to that old way of life. That way got you punched in the face. Roman Reigns has been friendly to him too, but you'd have to throw your eyes onto the floor to not see what he's actually planning. And everything with the Usos is just flipping excellent. Because you got Jimmy being all like, oh man, Sammy, you're my boy. Let's do a weird handshake. Whereas Jay just glares at him like he's about to throw him off a building. I mean, do you think this is not part of their plan? Of course there is. They're getting in Sami Zayn's head, which is why on a recent episode of Monday Night Raw, we had Kevin Owens versus Jey Uso, and they were all going, oh, Zayn, hit him with the chair, hit him with the chair. And even though he wasn't able to do it, we planted more seeds, because Sami Zayn went on Twitter and he was like, look, the only reason I didn't use that weapon is because I could see the referee, and the referee could see me, and I'm not going to get one of my Usos disqualified. I mean, that's absolutely poppycock, but it just allows this to keep ticking on. It doesn't even matter that you can predict this either. 9 times out of 10 in wrestling, doing the obvious is obvious because it's the right thing to do. So eventually the Bloodline will absolutely annihilate Sami Zayn. We'll sit in the corner going, oh my lord, it's absolutely crap. And as long as it's Kevin Owens who marches out to make the save, everybody will go crazy, and everything will be right with the world. What really will stand out though is that you can turn Sami Zayn babyface, and I still stand by the fact I think he's a better babyface than he is a heel, and he's a tremendous heel, and then KO and Sam can stand together and say, well, why don't we go after the tag team championships? And who holds those belts right now? Of course, it's the Usos. I mean, it even ties into the fact that Owens recently said, I'm a prize fighter again and I want championships. And this just makes so much sense because for ages I have been pondering, well, who the hell is going to beat Jimmy and Jay? Because they've held those belts for around about 45 years and there's not really that many contenders. Then all of a sudden Triple H takes over, clearly looks at Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and said, well, you can do it. And he's absolutely right. Then I would even try and hold it off to WrestleMania. I know that's crazy and somebody should shoot me out of a cannon because it's about 7 months away. But once again, we turn our attentions to AEW and Hangman Adam Page. They carried that thing on for ages and they went through pay-per-view and pay-per-view and pay-per-view before they did pay it off. And because they were able to hold all the little bits together, I actually think that made it feel more rewarding. Now, you do need to listen to the audience at first. So if you can feel the public swell being like, we need it now, you have to ensure you give it to them, otherwise you will miss the mark. But even if you do get that wrong, the fact that we are here to begin with makes me feel all warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. I mean, how many times have you gone, oh, this sounds like an interesting story, let me see it play out, and then you tune in the next week and they don't even mention it? It makes you feel insane. Also, if we're going to break this right down, Owens and Sami Zayn should be in top tier positions, and the Usos are one of the best tag teams ever, or at least of this generation. I will die on that hill. So shouldn't this be the kind of guys that are coming together in a big smash? Of course it is. I mean, wrestling has always been about moments, which is why when we focus on 2022, we talk about Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, or the fact that Stone Cold Steve Austin returned, and I tell you, the moment here will be Sam and Kev getting back together, and then you have a double moment when they finally become the champs. And the past has also taught us if you can eke this out, you'll get an even better reaction. So pick the right time, pick the right date, pick the right city, and I promise you this, a bunch of wizards will be jealous of you because you'll have magic. And let's keep this going too. Let's not just have it with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Let's make sure that long-term storytelling infects Raw, infects SmackDown, infects NXT, and we've already started to see the NXT and the main roster have a better relationship because I tell you, there's so much professional wrestling on TV. Trying to watch all of it is nigh on impossible, but if I know that Raw is going to talk to SmackDown and SmackDown is going to talk to Raw, and then Raw and SmackDown are going to talk to NXT, you bet your ass I'm going to try and find the time, or at least go out of my way to research it on the internet, and that's all you've got to do. Of course, you want your audience to be eyeballs watching the damn thing live, but if they're invested over there as well, because apparently this is where the World Wide Web lives, that's better than what we got now, because I know a lot of wrestling people are like, I am watching that NXT 2.0, it's too colourful. Whereas actually, it's turned a corner recently, it's pretty good. So could this be the catalyst for other things? I am saying yes, and when it does explode, if you go really quiet, you are going to hear a bald man be very, very excited. And that's not because I'm doing anything freaky deaky, we ain't talking about that on this show. It's because Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have finally reunited. Now, please do leave me a comment below and let me know what you think about all of this. Maybe you think the Usos should never lose their tag team championships. I want to hear from you, and you can do it down there. Also, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe, the 3 pillars of YouTube, and then do the 3 pillars of What Culture, which is checking out the website and seeing if it's for you, following us on social media at What Culture WWE and at Simon Miller 316, and going back to the What Culture Wrestling video YouTube homepage and finding something else to watch that makes you feel happy. My name is Simon What Culture. Thank you very much for joining me. As always, know that I love you so much it hurts. See you soon.